We all know that introverts and extroverts are not having the same experience in this world. And it's too simple to just put people in a box of introvert and extrovert, sure, but there are some general tendencies within each of these personality types, and it results in different lives lived. And what I want to get into today is bad habits specifically and how they affect introverts. Because I think there are 4 main points when it comes to introverts and bad habits. And the first one is that introverts are more likely to get bad habits and to stay stuck in them, or to get addictions even. And the reasons for that is, well, there's probably multiple reasons for that. A is that introverts tend to spend more time alone, spend more time at home, in their own room, inside. And as much as that is like a tendency of ours, it's still something that leads to boredom or wanting to escape your life, because being outside in the sun generally feels better. It's just that we're introverts. Doing fun activities is more fun than doing nothing. It's just that we're introverts. When we do a lot of fun activities throughout the day, we get a little drained and we want to return to ourselves. But then when we have recharged our battery, it's not like we go out there because of our tendency to be solitary. And so people spend a lot of time alone. People spend a lot of time in their room or in their apartment, in their house, whatever. And you're still going to get bored. You're still going to feel lonely, perhaps. Different things will arise. And inside of our home, where no one can see us and where we have access to our devices, a lot of addictions or bad habits start to arise or make its way into our lives, right? Think of video gaming. Nothing wrong with video gaming per se, but doing it for multiple hours when your work of the day is also behind the screen, right? So you wake up with your phone, then you spend time behind your computer, and then behind your console or computer, whatever. That's not healthy, right? But, well, we're introverts. So video gaming is a thing. Social media is also a thing, right? Because you are less social, but you are still just a human being that likes social experiences, that likes things. It's just that the social experiences out there aren't really made or structured or designed for you. And so you're still on social media looking at what other people are doing, looking at interesting things, looking at people discuss things, looking at shows, looking at Netflix, looking at whatever, right? So we have video gaming, we have all the different social media, from Netflix isn't social media, but consuming media, right? From Netflix to TikTok. Junk food is perhaps not per se an introvert bad habit. I'd say it's probably equal or more so a bad habit of extroverts. But when introverts have a low sense of self-worth and they feel lonely or empty, then that emotional eating can still be a problem, right? Some bad habits are more like extrovert things, like smoking or drinking or staying up until like 4 a.m. in the morning, that kind of thing, like the partying lifestyle. You are blessed with not having much of a desire to live that kind of lifestyle, so that's a good thing. But there's probably more bad habits that I'm missing out on right now, like adult content is another thing that's probably an introvert problem more so than an extrovert problem. And when you want to quit your bad habits, it's important that you sort of understand where you are now. And it's easy to sort of listen to the general advice on the internet, quit bad habits by doing this. But when people recommend quit bad habits like video gaming by just going out, and you have a sort of friction in going out of the house, then the advice is going to be not perfect for you. And so you need to understand that as an introvert, your relationship to bad habits is different, because a lot of the bad habits that you do when you're alone, you are doing because you are an introvert. basically. Second thing is that I feel like a lot of introverts have a lack of personal initiative. And what I mean by that is that perhaps you get told that you are not assertive enough. Perhaps you get told that you need to be more outspoken. You get put in all kinds of boxes as an introvert, telling you that you should speak up more, stand up for yourself more, be more proactive, take more initiative, things like that. And well, that does two things. One, you realize that that is probably not the best thing for you, right? You are more analytical likely than action-oriented, or you are at least more, you think before you speak. So when the entire world is telling you need to speak up more, well, really, the entire world needs to shut up more and take some time to think before people talk. But by the time you have developed most likely a very clear and productive answer to a question that your team at work is contemplating, everyone else has already given their shitty ideas, right? So when people tell you you should be more whatever, they are wrong. You shouldn't try to change yourself, right? You shouldn't try to be more assertive and just say things for the sake of saying things like other people do. However, as a counter reaction to that, you are likely gonna just think to yourself, these people don't get it. They're trying to make me something that I'm not. I'm just not gonna do it at all. I'm not gonna do what they're demanding of me, right? You're digging your heels into the sand. I don't know if that's an English expression. You're digging your heels into the sand. You're like pushing back. People are trying to push you or pull you in whatever direction, and you put your heels in the sand and you say, no, I'm gonna stay where I am. And therefore, you sort of hold yourself back intentionally. So that's one element. Second element is that when people tell you you are the way you are, you get a certain self-image, right? And you start to tell yourself that that is indeed the way you are. So you might simply only be proactive and assertive when you know you have something to say. But then people tell you that you never say what's on your mind, that you never speak up. And so you start to believe that. And then you get these loops in your head when you are at a meeting, you have something to say, and you don't because people put you in a box of like, people give you your self-image and you never change it. Oh, like this guy never speaks up. And so you're like, oh, I thought I was the guy that never spoke up, but I have something to say, blah, 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 blah. And before you know it, your opportunity is gone, right? So you compensate for the people that are trying to make you into something that you're not by not taking initiative. And on the other side, you have a certain self-image as a person that never takes initiative. And on one side, that is fine, because you are not supposed to take initiative until you have something of value to initiate, right? And instead of trying to change the introverts, maybe we should focus a bit more on changing the extroverts that are initiating all kinds of wrong or bad or destructive or at least unproductive initiatives. But that means still that the introvert, the average introvert, is just not leading their own life. This is not about work things and things like that. But because of the way we sort of interact with the world, usually we stay stuck in this loop of just like following other people's initiatives, waiting, thinking, analyzing, etc. And we don't take initiative in our own lives. There's a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And the first 2 chapters are about personal leadership and personal management, right? Step 1 is you need to sort of take responsibility for your life. And then step 2 is you need to find an effective way of doing that, basically. Lots of introverts just go through their lives in that cycle of, I go to work, I don't speak up, I don't initiate anything, I just do what I'm told. Then I go home, then I feel bad about spending 8 hours of my day being told what to do. So I will compensate by doing whatever it is that I want to do in this moment, right? And you're sort of like a slave to your urges, and then you just like order a pizza, play video games until way too long, right? You're compensating for your time at work not being time where you can do what you want to do, by doing what you want to do after work, and then you get like the revenge bedtime procrastination, I think it's called, where you delay when you go to bed because you want to have a certain amount of hours every day where you can do what you want. And so you sort of get stuck in the cycle, and you never take the initiative to say, okay, this video gaming thing, I said I was going to do it for 2 hours after work, but I do it way longer. I need to intervene. I need to take initiative and figure something out that makes life a bit more like how I truly want it to be. So it's almost like a snowball effect, I wouldn't say, but throughout your day, there's all these times where you could take initiative, and because of your tendencies, you don't. And so you grow into even less of an initiative taker. When really, as we saw in that book, the first step to leading an effective life, and effective is not about being a better laborer. You can be effective in anything, right? You could be effective at whatever you want, whatever is important to you. Hobbies, relationships, personal development, that's all still being effective. The first step to being effective at whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish is to take initiative, to draw responsibility to you, to say, it's up to me to change. And I don't meet or see or talk to a lot of introverts that say, my life is up to me. I'm 100% responsible, right? My life may not be my fault, but it's still my responsibility. I do not control what happens to me, but I control how I respond. That's not a very introvert way of thinking, when it could be, because there's nothing about being an introvert that will make you like that. It's just that society sort of molds you into thinking you don't take initiative, and so you don't, and you get stuck in the cycle. So that's the second element, and you need to take initiative to quit your bad habits. That's basically the main point that I was trying to make. Is like, if you want to quit any bad habit, you need to sort of take initiative and say, okay, this is it. This is where I draw the line. I'm going to throw away this or that because I'm too old to be spending 4 hours a day video gaming. I'm going to throw it out, right? The third point is that you're more likely to stay stuck in bad habits or in addictions even. And the reason for that is that I think the average extrovert has a lot more pull to get them out of their loops of bad habits, to get them out of their ruts, right? The average introvert interaction with bad habits is like, you do your work or your school, you feel out of place there. You feel like the system hasn't been designed for you. And so you want to escape your reality, right? That's a very important element in bad habits and addictions. So you go through that. And then you didn't have any plans made for that night. So you work, you get home, you compensate, or you distract yourself, or you escape yourself, or you try to numb your negative emotions, or you try to suppress your negative emotions with happy chemicals, right? And you do all of these bad habits, maybe even multiple at the same time, right? Like eating junk food while gaming, while scrolling on your phone, whatever you have to wait in a loading screen in the game. And there wasn't any plans for you to do anything with anyone else. You might have said, I'm going to the gym, but you were going to go alone. An extrovert was also going to go to the gym, but they had plans with other people. And so when it is time to get dressed for the gym and go there, the extrovert has a sort of accountability, and he is also going to enjoy being in a room of other people. Whereas the introvert is doing the bad habit, doesn't have anyone to hold him accountable but himself, but he's just been playing video games, so his accountability, his self-accountability is at a low, right? Because he's been doing like a easy dopamine, instant gratification kind of thing. So he's not at his strongest. His willpower is not at level. And then he thinks about going to the gym with other people. And the thought of that it's just a little bit of friction, right? It's not like an introvert is afraid of being in a room with other people, but it can be just a little bit of friction on top of your low willpower, on top of the fact that you have a bad habit that is fun in some way. You're gonna stay stuck. And the more you do a bad habit as a result of that, because instead of going to the gym for an hour, you play video games for an hour. And that only reinforces the behavior, right? And so the next day, you're going to have more strong of a desire to play video games. B, you're going to have less of a desire to go to the gym because you're not at all relating all of the positive feelings from the gym to the gym anymore, because you sort of forgot. Right, so you don't even think about going to the gym the next day, and you play video games. And we all know like the dynamic of dopamine, where when you do the same activity every single day, the dopamine you get from it gets lower, so you need to do more of the same activities to get the same amount of reward. So you have to play even more games. So you wake up the next day and you have even less of a desire to go to work. Meaning that when you finally are done with work, you have even more of a desire to escape that life with the bad habits. And an extrovert is going to have moments where he doesn't do the bad habit. He does something else that might also be harmful, like going out and drinking way too much. But it's still different. It prevents you from staying stuck in one bad habit and getting completely sucked into one thing, that one remedy for your life, basically. And so you're more likely to get bad habits. You're more likely to not ever wake up and take initiative and say, this is it, now I'm going to quit and I'm going to do something else with my time instead. You're more likely to sort of stay stuck in cycles of bad habits and not escape them. And the only way you can sort of escape them as an introvert is like the occasional social gathering can be like an escape from it. But also like moments of solitude where you don't do anything, you sit outside, you like watch the sun go down, and you sort of realize something. Things start to click and you realize like what you're doing. Or maybe you do something else, like reading a book about bad habits, and then something clicks and like, this is what I'm doing, this is happening to me. I need to take initiative to end it. So introverts are more likely to get bad habits. They are more likely to never take initiative to end them. They are more likely to stay stuck in bad habits. And the final point that I wanted to make is that as an introvert, or for introverts, I believe it is more important that you quit bad habits. And the reason for that is that the average extrovert that loves people, loves being with people, loves social gatherings, social events, you have these normal bad habits, right? They still play video games, eat junk food, and they also are more likely even to drink and smoke, and it's whatever. But their life sort of looks like this, right? They have some sort of occupation, work, business, academics, whatever. So they have their occupation. They have their relationships. Higher in quantity for sure, but also perhaps higher in quality, because being nice to other people is what builds relationships. If you want to make friends, don't ask what someone can do for you. Do things for them, be helpful to other people. And so because that is way more natural for an extrovert, they're not just likely to make more to have a higher quantity of relationships, but also higher quality. Even though the average relationship might be superficial, because they spend so much time with other people, and because they meet so many people that they can sort of figure out which people are best for them. They likely have serious quality relationships, right? I know introverts like to think that because they prefer deep one-on-one relationships over like group things, that it automatically means that they are better at profound relationships. But you also just need like skin in the game, you know, hours, repetitions of just interacting with people. I'm not trying to like get you scared or anything, like there's no worries, okay, at all. But so the extrovert life is like occupation, relationships, and then their personal life, as in like the things they like to do themselves, not just for the sake of other people, but themselves. And that involves, you know, going out, being with other people, also just some alone time. Still, like they're human beings, they still want alone time. Hobbies, exercise, things like that. Those are all kind of needs that every human has, because every human, despite having different tendencies, still have the same like ultimate motivations, right? If you look at just like the pyramid of Maslow of human motivation, you know, introvert or extrovert, you need sleep, you need food, you need air, you need water. You need on the next level, a feeling of safety and security. You need esteem, you need order, beauty, whatever, competency. You need, or you would ultimately thrive with, top of the pyramid being self-actualization, and then even above that is self-transcendence, where you're doing something for the greater good, right? That is sort of the introvert or the human desires, basically, because your desires are based on your motivations. Okay. If you look at that extrovert life and those motivations, I think extroverts are more likely to sort of self-actualize in their workspace, to go after the opportunities, to make the things happen that are going to get them the career that they want. All of their relationships needs are met. Generally speaking, all of the human physiological needs, biological needs like oxygen, water are being met for everyone, right? They might have more people around them, so they might have a higher feeling of safety and security and things like that. Generally, unfortunately, extroverts hold themselves to a higher esteem than introverts do for them. So that's one thing. Introverts might be very competent and skilled in their bad habits because they spend so much time doing it. But all of the things like certain sports, like physical skills, lots of things is because extroverts simply spend more time doing things. They are also more likely to just have a feeling of competency and self-worth and confidence. And so for most of the human motivations, if you were just to like put them down on a list, food, oxygen, water, sex, security, clothing, feeling of competency, confidence, esteem, respect, order, all of them. And you were to think about which of the two people, introvert or extrovert, is more likely to have that need covered. On basically all of them, extroverts are more likely to have that need met. That does not at all mean that as an introvert you cannot have those needs met. The bottom one, we all have food and things like that. But the other ones are a bit more difficult because introverts are more solitary, because we spend a lot of time inside of our own heads instead of in the outer world, because we take less initiative, because we're more stuck in our bad habits. We don't do the things that would allow us to have all of those motivations fulfilled, right? The extrovert sort of rolls into all of these things based on how they are. But an introvert needs to be a bit more proactive and clever to get all of their needs met. And it is fine to have your needs met, right? If they are genuinely your truest needs. I'm not saying start to be a consumer and buy all kinds of bullshit. That's not what I mean, but it's okay to have your needs met. So all of the things I mentioned, a feeling of competence, getting respect, having esteem, also self-esteem, having or working towards fulfilling your potential, so self-actualization, having some sort of greater goal that you are working on, that you're contributing to, self-transcendence. All of those things are things that an introvert can experience. It's just that when you think about it, an introvert doesn't roll into it. They need to actively intervene, and then they could potentially have a better life than extroverts, right? We have so many unique skills and qualities that the world actually needs, that if we were to place them in a market efficiently, we could get rewarded in all kinds of ways for that. So introverts have a huge potential for an amazing life. It's just that it requires active work. You can't roll into it. And so the average extrovert that has bad habits is still going to get the things he wants from life. He might play video games too much, but he still has a girlfriend. She still has a husband. They still have esteem at work. They still have this or that. And an introvert doesn't automatically roll into that. An introvert needs to realize, one, that the world isn't really made for him, and two, that an introvert, more so than an extrovert, I believe, can figure out ways to thrive in a world that isn't made for them. I think extroverts would go absolutely crazy if they lived in a world that wasn't made for them. And perhaps that's why, for the sake of balance, the world is more made for extroverts, because introverts are more capable of the world not being made for them. But then you need to quit with your bad habits, right? And you need to do other things instead. And that's kind of difficult because you see other people that are just doing whatever they want and still getting what they want from life in terms of relationships or promotions or whatever, even while drinking and gaming and scrolling on TikTok. And you might need to put in some more work to make it happen, to make what you want happen, right? And that might give you a feeling of like bitterness, or it might demotivate you. But really, any life path that you choose is going to have some suffering in it. As an introvert, as an extrovert, it doesn't matter. Any path you choose is going to have some suffering. It's just that you could suffer in that loop of bad habits, or you can suffer to break that loop, to get out of it, and to make the most of yourself and your life. And introverts are very capable of that. And introverts can look past all of the external needs that people have met, all of the clothing that people buy, all of the whatever, all of these external products that extroverts are so concerned with. We don't have that. And so when an introvert makes the same amount of money as an extrovert, that's going to be way more beneficial for the introvert, because he's going to be able to spend it on things that matter, things that are important, things that are actually going to make life even better. Invest instead of waste, right? So all in all, I think if I want to make it really simple, this is way, way, way too reductionistic. I'm making this way too simple. But an introvert with bad habits lives a worse life than an extrovert with bad habits. But an introvert with good habits lives a better life than an extrovert with good habits. Did I say it correctly? An introvert has a worse life with bad habits than an extrovert with bad habits. But an introvert with good habits lives a better life than an extrovert with good habits. So it is more important, and that's my final point, for an introvert to take initiative in their own lives, to take responsibility for their own lives and for the person that they become, and to change bad habits for good ones. So just to sum it up, the brutal truth about introverts and bad habits is that introverts are more likely to get them. They're more likely to not take the initiative, the personal initiative that is necessary to eliminate the bad habits from their life. They are more likely to stay stuck in bad habits, and for an introvert, it is way more important that you quit. So look at your bad habits. Everyone has them. Introvert or extrovert. It's just that extroverts won't see the same amount of negative consequences from their bad habits as you do. That might demotivate you, dishearten you, but as an introvert, when you get your life together, when you do the good habits, when you read, when you figure yourself out, when you outline a certain path that you want to choose, that you're going to choose, you're going to be able to live a wonderful life by the introvert standards, not by what extroverts tell you is a good life, by your own standards. But then you need to take that initiative to break the bad habits and to make it to a better version of yourself. And a better version of yourself is not a more extroverted version of you. It's just a more honest version of you, a more responsible version of you, a more knowledgeable version of you, a more kind version of you, but also at times, yes, a bit more of an assertive version of you, a bit more of a proactive version of you. You know what, I'm not going to name more things. You decide what is a better version of you. Just make it happen. That was it for today. Have a good day and enjoy your day. That was kind of double. I need a better outro. Have a good day and make sure to quit your bad habits.